Welcome to this neighborhood, neighbor.
I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Max World Live. Max World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Max World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Max World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 7 minutes after 4 o'clock on this 17th day of November, 2015. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is the Tuesday edition of Max World Live. Tomorrow, Mike Ahmed. Now, if you've been a longtime listener of my program, you know Mike. Mike's a 55-year-old father, grandfather, husband. He was on Anwar Sadat's cabinet and stood 20 feet from him when he was brutally assassinated in the 70s. He fled Egypt and came to America thinking he would convince people that Islam was the way, thought he better understand Christianity first, started to read the Bible, and guess what? Jesus mugged him. And now he's a devout brother of mine. He is an amazing guy when it comes to the Bible. He's also pretty knowledgeable about the Middle East, and he keeps up on this stuff. So tomorrow we'll have a conversation with him. That's tomorrow afternoon live here on Max World Live. Tom Coates in the house along with Sam Clovis. Now, Sam, you are you're a representative of Donald Trump's campaign.
I'm the national co-chairman and senior policy advisor to the Donald J. Trump for President campaign.
All right. So as my listeners are listening this afternoon, is everything you're about to say your opinion, or is some of it Trump's also? I don't want to put you in a bad position, and I don't want you to have to not say something or say something because of who you work for.
Well, I think it's easy for me to say that this is what I believe, or as opposed this is a position of the campaign. There is a difference there, and I think that when I speak for myself, I speak for myself, and when I speak for the campaign, I can make that clear.
So you'll make that clear. I don't have to assume that.
No, you don't have to assume that.
So what do you think Donald J. Trump would do if he were president today?
Well, I think it's very clear. He's already made the pronouncement that he would bomb, if you'll pardon the euphemism, the crap out of ISIS, and we have the wherewithal. And I think in the last hour we talked about some of that. I think the other part of this is that he has made it very clear that we already have a major military force in Syria right now, and that's the Russians. We ought to let the Russians clean up the mess that's there right now. If that means keeping Assad in office for a while longer, that has to be the case, because ISIS is the real threat. And so let's get rid of ISIS, and then we can come back and revisit the stability of Syria, the stability of Iraq, and then one of the things I'm concerned about, and I think one of the things that we are, as a campaign, are working on is this is the big issue for us. The big issue for us is what is going to be ground truth on the 20th day of January 2017. Mm-hmm. What is the next president of the United States going to inherit on that day? That is frightening in and of itself, because there's nothing, all of the rhetoric, all of the campaigns, all of the talk, all of the activities on the part of the American people, all of the polls, none of that is going to sway the president of the United States and his administration away from doing what exactly they're doing now, which is nothing.
All right. Now, you have obviously created a personal as well as professional relationship with Donald Trump.
Right.
We talked a little bit ago about how Barack Obama is so pathological, narcissistic that he can't listen to anybody else.
Right.
He doesn't put anybody on his cabinet that doesn't kiss his behind.
Right.
And if for some reason you should disagree with him, you're out the door.
Right.
Pardon me for saying this. Donald Trump seems like the same kind of guy, but I don't know him. You do. Comfort me.
He's not at all like that.
Okay.
I'm laughing, and I'm sorry because he's not at all like that. He is a person who wants input. We're structured in the fact that how we approach these issues. We wear suits to work and ties, and when we go into his office, we're wearing our coats, and we sit down and talk to him. And but that doesn't mean we don't have a good free-for-all back and forth on the conversation. He listens because he wants to get it right. See, this is the issue that is so different from Mr. Trump and from Barack Obama.
And I would assume Hillary Clinton, too.
Well, I would assume as well, but Mr. Trump wants to get it right. And that what that means is this the best thing for America? One thing drives everything that we derive, everything we do in the Donald J. Trump campaign, and that is what is best for America and what is best for Americans. That drives everything. If we can't answer that question, if it isn't in the interest of America, if it isn't in the interest of the American people, then we're not going to say it and we're not going to do it.
When you ran, you were with Trump on Saturday, I think, in Sioux City?
Yes.
Am I right on that?
Yeah.
What was his feelings, if you were able to share them? What were his feelings on what had happened in Paris the night before?
Well, I haven't talked to him. He was in Beaumont, actually, on Saturday, Beaumont, Texas, and he was in Florida on Friday, and then he had been in Sioux City 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. And then we were in Sioux City. Then we went to the debate in Colorado. That was then, and then we rotated around, went to the debate in Milwaukee. But this last week, he's been in Florida and Texas.
Okay.
Well, he said some things, Sam, that some of the other candidates are not saying in regards to this issue, just in the last few days.
Right.
He has said, for instance, Mac, that he would go after the oil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I think that is obvious. I did hear a report today that actually Syria and Assad were buying some oil from some ISIS sources, which is puzzling. The other thing he talked about that hasn't been talked about much, but is obvious, we're talking about domestic security, and that's going after the mosque. Nobody, I don't think, on the Republican field has mentioned a word about the mosque until he raised this issue in the last few days.
I think what he said was, and it was that we wanted to look at that.
Yes.
I don't think that.
I'm not saying we wanted to wipe them out, but I'm saying look into them.
Well, I think that the one of the issues that we have is that there are any number of situations that arise where you have these safe havens, and sometimes churches have done that. We call it sanctuary. I mean, they're there. We also, because the fact that Islam is so foreign to the Christian Judeo-Christian culture, that we often don't have any insight into what's going on inside the mosque. Several of these mosques where we know people are being radicalized, and some of these others. The First Amendment still trumps everything, and so Mr. Trump is not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we violate the First Amendment, because religious liberty and religious freedom are key issues for him, and he's advancing that. What is really at stake, though, is when seditious activities are taking place, then regardless of where that is, regardless of the structure, they need to be investigated and they need to be scrutinized. And this would be the same as if it were taking place in the basement of a church or a cathedral or anywhere else.
When it's been determined in our past, recent history, Sam, in World War II, we determined we were at war with Japan and Nazi Germany. We took some extraordinary measures, in some cases, to sequester individuals in camps to try to protect our population from seditious activity.
Well, I think, again, that the overt activities, if we didn't do that after 9/11, I don't think we're going to do it after the Paris attack.
Well, probably not, and especially with this guy.
Yeah, but I think that the focus ought to be on the discussion ought to revolve around what we do about the Patriot Act. The discussion ought to revolve around what we do with the Joint Terrorism Task Force, which is a huge apparatus. What are we doing about fusion of information? I've been talking to a lot of my law enforcement friends around the country, and one of the key issues for them is the sharing of information. And we're finding out in Paris that was a huge issue, that law enforcement, some agencies may have known who these people were, but they hadn't shared that information with other agencies. As one kid was on a watch list, clearly on a watch list, had been arrested 8 times already for radical activity. And yet, and so if you think about 9/11, we had, the FBI had some agents who had suspected or were starting to connect the dots, but just couldn't get that.
Well, that wall of separation that Clinton built up.
Yeah, well, that Jamie Gerlich and
Exactly.
All of that. So, long answer here, but I think the issue is if we can take a look at sharing of this information, both up channel and down channel, and particularly for local law enforcement, because they're not going to, these guys, they may come in and attack in Washington, D.C., or they may attack in New York City, but that's not where they're going to train. That's not where they're going to organize.
And that's not where they're going to run to.
They're not going to run there. So we're going to see them out in some suburb of Warren, Virginia. I'm just throwing that out there because I happen to know it's a town 60 miles from D.C. So they may be organizing in Warren or doing something else, and then they'll figure their way into the city, and then they'll come in and do that because they know in the city there's a different structure and law enforcement out in the hinterlands may not be as aware or sensitive or be able to connect those dots. Here's a classic example. In the state of Iowa, we sell anhydrous ammonia and diesel fuel by the millions of gallons and the millions of pounds. If we have 2,000 pounds of anhydrous ammonia taken out of somebody's barn, and we have 500 gallons of diesel fuel stolen from somebody's farm, we may not look at that as an indicator because that happens all the time.
But
in the heightened awareness, the Story County Sheriff, they suddenly put the two together and say,
that might
this
mean
is something we may be able to look at.
Sam Clovis' series with the Trump campaign. Tom Coates in the house along with Chris Roloff. Frank, I'm J. Michael McCoy if I haven't told you lately. Thanks for listening. Hey, it's your voice I want to hear. 515-244-0077. What do you have to say? What should the president be doing right now to keep America safe? That's next, live here on The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, 21 minutes after 4 o'clock, 421, 17th day of November, Lord's Year 2015. J. Michael McCoy along with Frank, the producer, in-house, Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines, and then, of course, Sam Clovis, who is the national co-chair for Donald J. Trump, and on his, what did you say? You were on his security? No, tell me again.
I'm the senior policy advisor.
All right, that's what we're switching chairs here for a minute. So, all right, senior policy advisor. Now I want to go to Tom because now you're always watching the stock market and everything, and you heard from a reliable source, that there was a short sell a few days prior to the bombing in Paris.
Right, very similar to what happened to us prior to 9/11.
All right, so first of all, tell my listeners what a short sale is and the evidence of that. What does that mean to you and other investors?
Well, there's different ways that they can execute it. Of course, Sam's an economic professor as well, but you can actually short sell. You can borrow the stock and actually short it, or you can buy puts, or these days there's other avenues like exchange-traded funds that have some leverage. So there's different instruments that you can use, but what you're saying is you're placing a wager that the stock market will go down versus the traditional wager that is going to go up. And when we had 9/11, they found evidence, and I think it's taken for granted now for those that have looked into it, that the terrorists went ahead and short sold our stock market, anticipating the type of drop. We saw a precipitous drop after 9/11. Now, they have not seen that kind of a drop on the Paris and the French situation, but similar type of unusual activity came in a few days before. Sam hadn't seen that evidence yet, but a guy named Jim Rickards was putting that out yesterday afternoon, and I read the report last night.
Now, the other interesting report that's out is there is a group in the world, they're believed to be United States, but in the world, and they call themselves Anonymous. And if you've been watching the news over the last few years, they were around a lot when the 99% and things like that. Well, what Anonymous are is professional hackers. They have come out and said to ISIS, we're coming for you. They're upset that this has happened with France, and so they're going to go in and try to disrupt, if not eliminate, any internet, any digital, any communications back and forth.
Yeah, 5,500 Twitter is what they're claiming right now. They've shut down on the ISIS side.
Really? 5,500 Twitter?
I heard that as I was coming in, yeah.
All right. Frank, go ahead.
Would ISIS has made a direct threat on the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Do you think if an attack actually happened, that would get Obama's attention and the politicians' attention that something has to be done? Much like when Ted Cruz mentioned that if it was media and journalists coming across the border, we'd have the border shut down. I mean, it's sad to say, but an attack on Washington seems the only thing that would get their attention.
Well, I don't think it would change Obama's approach to this at all. I think that he's rigid in his ideology, and I think he's stubborn. And I think he's stubborn to the point that he would refuse to react in any way, shape, or form. And the other thing is because I think his advisors would be very, very much of the same mindset. I worry. Ironically, I had a very long conversation with some friends of mine this morning that happen to be corporate executives for a major defense firm, and I won't get into who they were or what they did. But one of the things is that we're all very concerned about where we are with the military leadership, and the fact is that we know that they are vigilant, they're working hard, they're trying hard, but they're running up against an administration that has a social agenda when it comes to the military, rather than a security of the nation agenda. Exactly. And to me, that's appalling. I mean, the number one job of the federal government is to protect the people of this country. That's number one. I mean, it's the only job.
Now, I had somebody, I like to be a high information voter. I don't call them Democrats, Sam. I don't call them progressives. I don't call them liberals anymore. I call them low information voters because they seem to grab at whatever's at the short hanging fruit, and that's what they run with. I happened to be talking to someone who was a high information voter but was on the other side of the fence than I. And he said, you've got to go back. You've got to go back to Papa Bush when he went over and did Desert Storm and really made some people mad. And then you skip Clinton because Clinton didn't do anything. And then Junior Bush comes in and he goes over and upsets him. And the Democrats, the liberals, the progressives saw a perfect opportunity to get anybody elected on the Democratic side so he could pull us out of that war, totally make the Middle East so wishy-washy and unsafe, and everybody's after everybody, that the perfect storm is what's happening right now, and that is an uncontrolled, unidentified enemy to finally put this planet into a new world order rather than separate countries taking care of themselves.
I spent a lot of my life working in different areas, and one of them I was when I was in the Pentagon, I was asked to think and act like a Russian, and I was able to do that with some fidelity because of Russian history and all of that and European background. Another part of my job was to think and act a little bit like an Arab, and to think and act like a person who might be, in a terrorist operation, a mujahideen or into that area. And I had got that right most of the time as well. I cannot, in all of my intellect, all of my depth in my spirit, cannot make myself think like a progressive. I cannot. It is incomprehensible to me how anyone could identify and look at the fact the subjugation of individual liberty to anyone or anything. It is beyond my level of ability to understand. I cannot fathom why anyone would want that or think that way.
All right, let me follow up with Mac's question. Turn it a little bit political here, Sam.
Right.
There's a poll out that I brought in saying that over half of the American public wants something done to halt the refugee program that has already been initiated under Obama. And by the way, that program has you should at least give fair representation to Christians that have been the most subjugated over there in Syria and the Mideast. They have been particularly put upon, tortured and burned out and murdered. And yet, the refugees that Obama's brought in are represented 1 to 20. 20 to 1 is the Muslim ratio. And in Syria, prior to the Civil War, it was a 10% population that was represented by Christians. We're not getting anywhere close to giving Christians a fair shift on this. But beyond that point, here's my political question. Ladies in particular are being talked about right now with Hillary Clinton as the likely nominee. I still think there's an outside chance that the FBI takes her out and that they go to with a Biden or somebody at the last minute. But that's an aside. The talk is, will Hillary be able to attract the female voters in the general election? Now, my question is, the ones that are most concerned about security typically are the ladies, and they will vote for what they think is the person that's going to make them the safest. Now, Trump. Typically, Donald Trump turns off a lot of women because of the strong persona and this and that. But in the one instance that isn't the case, and where it might work to Hillary's disadvantage is if they feel threatened by an outside force.
Right.
They come into this situation, and Hillary in the debates the other night wouldn't even identify radical Islam any more than any other Democrat politician is want to do. And yet Trump comes out and he talks very forcefully about what we're going to do. We're going to bomb them. We're going to take out their oil, take their revenue out. We're going to protect everybody. We're going to build a fence. And even though they might find some aspects of his personality somewhat appalling, they would latch on, I'm saying, in a time of concern. Now, we get past the time of concern and they no longer feel threatened, then that's another issue. But if they're in that time of concern, we do get hit by a terrorist attack. Things ramp up and we've got some real concerns over what's going on. Maybe they let these Syrians come in and maybe we have one of them involved. I don't know what'll happen. You don't either. But that is a scenario that if Trump is our candidate and he runs against Hillary, and right now they're saying, oh, Hillary beats Trump, she can't beat some of the others, that flips that around just on its own, doesn't it?
It does. I think if they're, rather than casting, the women's vote as a monolithic block, and I'm not pushing back on that. I'm simply saying that if you take a look at soccer moms, and these are the married women, part of a couple, have children, national security does become a real issue for them. Single women or single parent women in particular are going to, regardless of what happens, likely go with Hillary. And there are some who will go with Hillary simply because she's a woman, and then they think there's some issue there. But I think that
I'm hearing that the young women aren't necessarily marching down that.
Well, they don't like her because she's not likable. And I think that there is something to the fact that Donald Trump is a man's man, and he is. I mean, there is some aspect of that, and he gives off that aura of strength and resilience, and I think that there is something to that. I think that also
an alpha
male, and he is indeed that. But I also think
beset with, like Obama, maybe the epitome of the beta. Trump might be maybe an epitome of an alpha male.
Yeah,
am I right?
I would say that. I would go so far as to say that Obama would be categorized in modern terms as a metrosexual. I mean, it was hard to imagine, anything that is to me, he's not anywhere near on the same planet as Donald Trump. But I think if you look at the African American vote in America, you're not going to see a monolithic vote for a Democrat, because Donald Trump is speaking truth to power, particularly when it comes to jobs and economic development and trade, because that means those jobs are coming back to America, and that benefits minority communities more than it does others. Hispanics, people who came here legally, are supporting him in large numbers, massive numbers. And I think is what we hear is the shrillness of the open borders people, because they know they're not winning this. They're not winning because Donald Trump is attracting Hispanics who are here legally, because they know what this is costing, and they're getting painted with a different brush.
Well, and that's been surprising. Now, Obama's now on the ticket this time around. We thought in 2012, Sam, that the numbers of minority voters, blacks and Hispanics, would not be as great because they had not fared well under those 4 years of Obama and his economy, and yet they did turn out.
Well, I think that the missing vote out there, the vote that was missing, was the evangelical vote, and I think that is the vote that probably will be attracted. I think they will vote this time. I think that they will, because they know that sitting on the sidelines is not going to get this done. And I think for a lot of them, they're starting to get the notion that religious liberty is at stake. If another Democrat is elected, particularly Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, religious liberty in this country is gone, because there will be such a force in place with the court appointments and all the other factors here that their ability to practice religion, their faiths, will be taken away from them. And I really do. I think that is a direct threat. I think there is a direct threat from the progressives against religion in this country.
Can you believe that Bernie Sanders said that global warming was the cause
of threat? Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're coming back. Sam Clovis with the Donald J. Trump campaign. Tom Coates with Consumer Credit. Frank's producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. 244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then Ask Hank. Hank, the Bible Answer Man, 1-888.
I heard him the other day, Mac. I did listen to him.
He's a good guy.
He was. He's a good guy.
1-888. Ask Hank. And you may think, well, Mac, it's like 20 minutes before. No, call in now. It's a nationwide live show all around the world. He always has too many, well, not too many, but he always has a lot of callers. And so if you want to get in there, call. If you want to call us, you're welcome to at any time, 244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear. Put it in your phone. Write it down. Maybe you don't want to call now, but you will someday. Just put it in your contact. Max, World Live, MAC''S, World Live, 515-244-0077. Hey, don't forget, it's coming up this Friday, and it's really something you should want to check out, especially if you have a biblical worldview. I want to personally invite you to the Presidential Family Forum, an event like no other. Candidates like Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, Bobby Jindal, Marco Rubio, Rick Santorum, and more will be gathered around a table to have an honest, heartfelt conversation, all guided by pollster Frank Luntz. This is a must-attend event. It's only $15. The Presidential Family Forum is this Friday on the 20th of November at the Community Choice Credit Union Convention Center, what you and I know as Vets Auditorium. Answer the phone, please. It's what you and I would call Vets Auditorium. Get tickets at thefamilyleader.com. All right, you made the comment earlier, I think it was in the last show, that Russia and us are probably not going to end up in a coalition on this thing.
No.
But that creates three sides.
Well, at least, yeah. There are others.
You're a historian. You've
Yes.
studied history.
Yeah.
I'm not, this isn't a prophecy. This is just what you're thinking. Doesn't this kind of shape up to be a world war? I'm not saying it's WW3, but doesn't this shape up to be a lot of different countries, including the European coalition, taking this on?
I don't know. I don't know what the level of commitment's going to be, and it is it's a small confined area, literally. I mean, in all sense. I mean, it's like Iraq and Syria they're large, but it's not a large piece of the globe. And so I think that we're going to, as far as the global aspect of the war, I don't see that. I don't see us fighting in in the South Pacific and other places. Because I don't think it'll get to that. I think that one of the worries I have is deconfliction. I mean, if Russia is going to do their job and they want to operate independently, what we need to make sure of is we don't interfere with that and we stay clear of all their activities.
I mean, you'd think after this plot, they now know for sure this plane, the Russian plane,
right,
200 and some people died, that was clearly blown out of the sky with a small amount of TNT, basically. Right. And ISIS took responsibility for it.
Right.
If that happened, well, I was going to say if that happened to us, our president, to do something, I don't know if this one would. Trump would. Cruz would. A lot of other people would.
Right.
All right, let's go to the phones where Paul is standing by. Paul, you're live in Max World. How you doing today?
That's Tom.
Oh, Tom, how are you?
Oh, good, Mac. Say, I got a question for you. I read this story on your Facebook page that Governor Branstad said he was going to put a halt to Syrian refugees, and I noticed how carefully it's worded. It said Syrian refugees resettlements by state agencies. Now, Jan Michelson did a story a few months ago, I think it was, about church organizations resettling refugees, and that the government was paying them so much per refugee, and they were settling them into neighborhoods and stuff without people in the area even knowing what's going on. Now, do you think that will still happen since churches aren't state agencies?
I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a distinct possibility that churches will take on some of this. The churches were very instrumental in settling the Vietnamese refugees that we had. They've been instrumental in settling the Serbs and those were Muslims, by the way, that came here. A lot of them, and I think that so the churches have been instrumental in settling a lot of refugees throughout our history. I think that you're onto something though when you start talking about the weasel wording of a statement, because I think it is in the power of the government to say that he will not allow state agencies to do that. That doesn't mean that we won't end up with churches doing that. The Catholic Church has a long history of settling refugees, and I do think it's quite possible that the churches might take on some of this responsibility.
But Sam, there was a poll out recently, and I think this goes to the issue. I think the population, if they become understanding, and Ben Carson raised the issue about not supporting a Muslim. Majority of Muslims were polled recently. They said the majority of them wanted to live under Sharia law, and almost a quarter of those polled said they believed that violence to achieve the Sharia law was acceptable. That is antithetical to what we're living under right now.
Sharia
Sam?
law is not compatible with a constitutional republic. It is not compatible, and it should never be entertained. And any person that believes that you're going to allow an enclave to have local jurisdiction, administrative courts that support Sharia law, and you think about the ramifications of that, we're a nation of law based on natural law and natural rights, that from that, the common law that we have is what orders our society. Sharia law is not compatible with that. Then we have public law, which is the written law, and the written law is derived from our common law and our natural law. So Sharia law does not comport with any of those things. And so for people to sit there and say that we're going to coexist is nonsense, because if you believe in Sharia law, you cannot possibly believe in the Constitution of the United States. They're incompatible. And so I'm just struck by, what I consider people who, I think it's naive. I mean, it really is.
Low information.
Well, they could be low information, but I think it's naive to believe that Sharia law can coexist with a constitutional republic. It can't.
But Obama doesn't follow the Constitution.
Well,
isn't that just a slippery slope of where we're going?
Well, I think that when you start talking about the president of the United States selectively enforcing the law, then what you're really talking about is a violation of his oath of office. Whether he believes in the law or not is not his call.
Right.
It is whether or not he takes the oath of office and takes it seriously. It says it will support the law of the land to the best of his ability. That's almost a direct quote from his oath of office. And that he will support and defend the law to the best of his ability.
Tom, any other questions? I want to thank you for listening and thank you for calling in today.
Thanks, Mac.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye. All right, quarter of the hour. Tom Coates in the house along with Sam Clovis, who's on Donald Trump's campaign. Why? I mean, you're a happily married man.
Yes.
You just got done with a heck of a battle.
Yes,
in
I
which
did.
you were given little chance in the beginning and came
I did
out
magnificently.
Yeah, you did. You're a wizard when it comes to history and economics. Why jump into the presidential campaign arena?
Well, one thing, I wanted to do it. I thought that was an important aspect of this. This kind of was on my bucket list because of my taste in politics. I wanted to be involved in the presidential campaign. And the reason I signed on with Donald Trump in the end is because I think he's the only one that will actually go to Washington and change things, because he's not in the pocket of special interests. There's not a candidate running. I like all of these guys. They're wonderful people. There's not a single candidate running that is not beholden to somebody in some way.
And if you write a check, by God, you better know I wrote a check. That's the way politics work, right?
Exactly.
And nobody writes Donald Trump a check.
No.
What about his? I don't know. I don't want to be insultive. He doesn't seem to be a born again Christian.
I wouldn't go there. I think that, and you get asked this question a lot. I will tell you this. I'm
sorry, you didn't ask me not to say it. So
I will answer.
Okay.
But you got to give me more. It's more than a 30-second soundbite.
Well, I'll tell you what. We got 35 seconds till break. You think about the answer.
I will,
and we'll come back. Frank is producing. Tom Coates in the house. Sam Clovis. We love Sam Clovis. We've loved Sam Clovis long before he was a big deal. He's always been a big deal to you and I, Tom.
He's always been a big deal.
Yeah, so
in this studio.
We appreciate him being here. And it's your voice we want to hear. Tom, thanks for calling in a minute ago. 244-0077. What your question might be for Sam Clovis or Tom Coates, it's up to you. The phone lines are open. 244-0077. Live here on The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on Webcast1Live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1.
For the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Hank, the Bible Answer Man, at 1-888-ASK Hank. Give him a call. Steve Deace live tonight from 8 to 11 o'clock, and great preaching and teaching all night long. And during the day, well, Dr. Alex Brown, myself, a lot of good people. Jay Seklo coming in and doing a little talk radio for you right here on 99.3. All right, before we hit the break, I asked Sam Clovis, who is the co-national chair for Donald Trump. Donald does not seem like a man who has a personal relationship with Jesus. Now, I didn't ask that. So what I asked was, he doesn't seem like he's a born-again Christian. And I thought about that during the break, and that sounded very judgmental of me, and I don't mean to do that. In fact, I don't know if you know this. You weren't there when Frank, what was that thing you took me to out at the state fairgrounds?
Oh, the Iowa Faith and Freedom Forum.
Yeah, and that was when he came out with his Bible and showed his picture. I went backstage, and just as he was getting ready to get into his car, I leaned over and I said, Jesus loves you, Donald. I should have said, Donald, do you love Jesus? That's what I wanted to ask. So as much as you can share with us, because I do care that I have a man who's running this country that has a biblical worldview. Right. And to me, that's just a guy who pays attention to history. Because the Bible's the history. Whether non-believers or atheists or whoever, they want to discount it, I don't care. That's history.
I think, there are, 4 guys sitting in here that, that all have been on their own personal journeys. And, I still I talk about my personal journey a lot, in my faith, in my walk with God.
Yeah, you shared it with us.
And I have. And it took a long time, and I'm still on it. I mean, I'm still going there. I think I will give you, this is my reflection, my observation of Mr. Trump. I think that over the last several years, we've watched this celebrity, we've seen him in a lot of the reality TV issues and a lot of his business deals. And I mean, he's got some tremendous, operations out there. He's going to bring in the old post office ahead of schedule and below budget, if you can believe that. And so it's a marvelous opportunity. So success is not the issue. I think what has happened in his life is that I think that with his getting older and him seeing the maturity of his children and how they turned out, and now having grandchildren, I think this has really put him on a different path. Mm-hmm. And I really think if you've ever seen him with his family, and I have, there is a deep love and reverence for each other in that. And he's a very loving man. I mean, when it comes to his children and his wife. He's made comments to me about his personal life and some very revealing comments. And I think for me, this has been one of the things that, that myself, I'm a Catholic, but I'm an evangelical Catholic, a militant Catholic.
That's an oxymoron.
It is, but I have that stripe, and that's just my nature. Chuck Laudner is on the campaign, and Chuck is a born again, very devout, very evangelical guy, and he's one of the warriors of conservative and Christian beliefs in this state. I mean, it has been for a long time, and we both believe in this guy. And I think that the reason we believe in him is because we think that he's on that path. Now, some people get there quicker than others.
Right. It took me 50 years.
But I do think that his family has really changed his vector when it comes to this.
Yeah,
because he has utter respect and utter reverence for people who believe like Chuck and I believe.
Yeah.
And we talk about it. And Chuck and I both gotten in the habit of we campaign and we go on trips with him and we do these things. And Chuck and I both carry Bibles with us. I mean, it's part of our kit. And we do that because there are times we need them.
Yeah.
And I won't go into why, but there are times we need them.
Sure, same time like I need one.
Yeah.
I've got one I got 2 right here to my left.
I know. But to me, what I'm saying is that these are not tokens. These are not emblematic. I carry a Constitution with me all the time, and I have for 10 or 15 years now. And I don't do it for show. It's not a prop. I do it because I believe it, and I believe in it.
All right. Now, Jill King asked us a question on Facebook, and I think this is a valid question. Given what's happening, you talk about Obama just being a pathological narcissist, and he just doesn't seem to care, and da-da-da-da-da. Are you absolutely, completely sure we'll have a presidential election in November of 16?
Yeah, I am.
You don't think that...
No, I believe in the American people. I believe in this Congress. I believe in the Constitution. As tattered and as beat up as it is, I believe.
So maybe I'm just tinfoil hat. Big ISIS attack 3 days before the election, 4 days of the election. Martial law is instilled.
No.
We're gonna postpone the elections. Meanwhile, Obama does something executive.
No, not going to happen.
He could do it, but you think at that point the American people would stand up and say, "I've had enough."
He can't do it. The Constitution does not allow that.
And No offense, buddy, I love you, but do you think at this point the guy's going to pay attention to the Constitution?
He will on that.
He hasn't up to this point.
He will on that because he's already seen what's happened when he goes out here and pokes a finger in the eye of the governors. We have 30 governors that have told him no.
Yeah, and what he's saying
and we're
is
going to have more. It'll be more before the end of the day. It'll be more tomorrow after that and more after that because the people of this country are at a point where they see this as an existential threat to the United States of America. And whether we have a commander-in-chief or some fluffball up there who is living in an alternative reality, the American people, I trust. I trust the American people.
This is a silly question. You said there's 30 governors that have come out.
Right.
Is that all the Republican governors? Does that include
No, there's
some
some Democrats in there too, right?
There's at least one Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay. And now he is saying that he can, pardon the language, he can trump federal law, can trump state law, and he can bring in refugees anywhere he wants.
Well, he can. It is in the federal government's authority, but it is also in the Congress's authority to pull the money and not fund it. So he'll have to find some money from somewhere else. And then the other factor is you can enforce the immigration laws. I mean, we can enforce the. There's a thought.
Yeah, what a unique idea. We don't need new immigration laws if we just enforce the ones we had.
Yeah.
The new speaker stepped up this morning and said they wanted to take a look at this whole refugee program,
All right.
which I was happy about. And by the way, Sam, let's project maybe Donald Trump is the man. He gets in there. Who would be an ideal running mate for him?
I'm not going to speculate on that.
You don't want to go there?
No, I won't go there.
All right.
Not right now.
Tom Coates. Trump Coates. It'd be a winning ticket. All right. Sam, I love you, and I appreciate you coming in here today.
Well,
You're
thanks for
welcome
having
anytime.
me. Oh, you bet. I love being here.
If you can ever sneak the Donald in here, we'd sure appreciate that. But I know he doesn't do a lot of radio at all, does he?
No. Well, he does most of the national stuff, and that's about it. So.
Hey. Are you telling me us little peons in Desmond?
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying there's only
wonderful.
so many hours in a day.
I know. All right. Well, thank you for being here. You're welcome anytime.
We'd like to take a ride on his helicopter sometime.
Well, riding on Trump 1 is even better.
And will we see you in the White House if it's President Trump?
If I am asked, I will serve, and I will serve at the grace of the president.
All right. Frank, thanks for producing. Tom, thanks for being here. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Remember, we're live at Vets Auditorium for the Presidential Family Forum this Friday night. We're live 3 to 5 in the afternoon. Then all the candidates take stage. It's not a debate. It's a conversation guided by pollster Frank Luntz. We hope to see you there. Until I see you again, remember tonight, maybe it's tonight, maybe tonight's the night, you grant forgiveness. Because remember, you will be forgiven as you forgive. I'll see you in church.